on Puffball Paradise on Kelleys Island this year. Follow me for an adventure about puffballs. I'm Dawn with Kelleys Island Adventours. We've been mushroom hunting on Kelleys Island for years. Normally in the spring, people are all over trying to find the morel mushroom, but it's fall and we've been finding puffballs like crazy. I heard a guy found one that was 15 pounds. It made a bit of fish story, but I know for sure that I found 3 different species of puffballs. So puffballs, it's not a scientific name in so much as it is a description of a mushroom that has all its spores on the inside. So mushrooms grow a lot of different ways. And the typical mushroom people think of is a cap with on a stem that has gills underneath, or sometimes they grow on trees and they have spores underneath, or pores that let out their spores. But a puffball has all its spores on the inside. So it's kind of a beginner mushroom, which is good because mushroom hunting can be a little bit dangerous. So a disclaimer is, first of all, never eat anything that you're not 100% sure of. So I was able to positively identify 3 different species, like I said, and that's because they're beginner mushrooms. But I did do it and I did consume it. It was a lot of fun, and I'm going to take you and show you each different species and what they look like and how I identified it. And then I cooked them up and I consumed them, and it was a lot of fun. So stay tuned and we'll get to the first mushroom, which was the Meadow Puffball. So I was walking along and just in a mowed path like this, and I found the first puffball mushroom. I didn't know what it was at first. It just looked like popcorn all over. And as I was going along, I'm seeing all this popcorn. So I bent down, I picked a couple up. I saw that they were firm, they were white, and they were for sure puffballs. I didn't know what kind of puffball they were though. I had never seen them before. So I took them home, and here they are on my kitchen table on my cutting board here. And you notice how they're really small. They're about 1/2 inch to 1 inch large, and they're a little bit flattened out, more like a disc than a real ball. And they have some little knobbies on them. But like I said, inside was white. So that's the big thing about puffballs. So your first thing about the puffballs, you want it to be before it goes to spore, because at that point it's not that great, and you really wouldn't want to eat it anyways. I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. So so these little ones, they were hardly worth picking, but it was fun. And so they are edible, and the name of them, this is so fun, is Lycoperdon pratense. That's not the common name. The common name is Meadow Puffballs, I already told you, but Lycoperdon pratense. So pratense means of meadows, and Lycoperdon, this is like I said, this is kind of funny because the taxonomical name broken down to in its Latin means wolf. Lycoperdon means the forceful passing of air, or in medical we would have said that would be flatulence, and the common term would be maybe fart, so like wolf fart, which is weird, and I probably will always remember that now. So these little wolf farters in the meadow, so Lycoperdon pratense. And I did cook these up, and we put them in some vegetable dish, and they were so bland I couldn't even tell that they were in there. But mushrooms are good for you, so that was super fun, and that was my first one. The next one I found was the giant puffball. I've seen that one before. And I had found a giant puffball before there a couple years ago, so that's kind of a fun thing. If you find one in a certain area, go back in the years following, and you might find another one, and like I did. And actually, I went back after I found these, and I found some more that had gone to spores. So, so the giant puffball can get really big. Like I said, sometimes they can get, you would find 1 foot or 2 feet big, but they can get up to as big as 3, 4, even reported as 5 feet tall. That'd be as big as me. I'm not that big. But anyways, that's a really big mushroom. So the name of it is Calvacia gigantea. So gigantic for sure, or giant. And then puffball is for it stands for like a bald head, really, is what it breaks down to be. So a giant bald head. So in the Calvacia genus, there's about 50 different types of puffball. Back in the Lycoperdon, there's over 50 as well. So there's over 100 species of puffballs. Who would have known? So that is super cool. So here's my puffball at home, and I'm gonna cut it open because I'm so excited. I already identified it in the field, and you can see because somebody's been nibbling at it on the outside that it's white inside. So you have to clean all that off. And on this one, you would want to probably take the skin off, especially with all those bites all over it. So I just peeled that off. The first thing, you cut it open. It gives like a little bit of squeaky sound, and then it should be real firm when you're touching it. And it's kind of like tofu almost, and or like a super soft cheese, but it definitely takes up the flavor of things like tofu. And so we went ahead and positively identified it, like I said, and then we took this peel off, or the outer shell off, and any bites, and it was perfectly white then, and we cut it up into these pieces and went ahead and I sauteed some of it right then and there. Kind of like tastes like fried cheese, and then we deep fried it, and then with some like a beer batter, and then put it in some risotto. That was fun. So it kind of goes a long way. I found 2 of them. They were attached together, and they had like almost like a tail that attached them to the ground. Now these are saprophytic, and they grow on leaf litter or in a grassy area like I found here near the side of the woods, kind of like the Meadow Puffballs, but that's a little bit different than the next one I found. So here is some pictures of me as I'm finding a giant puffball as it's already on a spore. So I come over here, and there's some giant puffball mushrooms that have already spored. So that's what they look like. Get a little bit closer here. When the shell obviously is not white, the insides are not white. And then watch this. So there's spores coming out of it. I don't think you'd be too interested in eating that. Here's another one over here. That's what it looks like. There's one that, oh gosh, that must have been 1.5 feet big. Still got a little bit of paper thin, but look at that. So cool. What I learned since then is that giant puffballs can grow in a fairy ring, they call it. So if you find one, look around in kind of a big ring, because they would produce, once they do spore, I read that they can have 7 trillion spores inside of them. Crazy number. I don't know how many of those little ones have in them, maybe, millions or billions. I don't know. So that's a lot of spores. So that's how they reproduce. And again, certainly that does not look like anything you would want to eat when it's at that point. So that's the giant puffball. That was super fun. I thought we were done until I was walking. So I'm pretty excited. I just found some more puffball mushrooms. So these are not giant puffball mushrooms by any means, but they seem to be fresh. And I'm going to pick a few and take them home. And then we will cut them open, but I can already tell that they're, well, somebody's been getting at them. But they're pretty firm. See, these are look like pear-shaped puffballs. And they're still white inside. Isn't that so fun? And stump puffball. So I take them home. I cut them up. Here they are on my cutting board, and you can see that the outer covering is a little bit different than the other two. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit thinner, but it's still very thin, and the inside still looks like marshmallow. And so we have to cut them open, check with them, see what kind they are. And of course, I identify these as, they used to be lycoperdon piriform, so it means pear shape. But now they're not lycoperdon anymore. They've classified them into apioperdon, which means connected air forcer. So this one is a pear-shaped connected harder in the woods. Okay, so another edible puffball. So isn't that so fun? So it was we fried these, and I sauteed them, and you have to be careful when you cook these mushrooms because they don't have a lot of flavor, and they will take up whatever flavor you're frying them up in if you're sauteing them. And I was sauteing them in some fresh garlic, and they were really good, but I ended up putting them in another dish, and it was even better yet. So before we end, there's a couple things that you actually have to review with you. And first of all, as I mentioned earlier, number one, you never eat anything you're not 100% sure. You wouldn't eat berries in the woods that could be poisonous. You don't eat mushrooms in the woods that could be poisonous unless you 100% know what they are. Secondly, you got to take them home and identify them usually. Most people, certain things like morels and puffballs that you can start to learn and identify right on site. But most things, you're going to need some sort of a guide to help you identify and to make sure that you are 100%. And then make sure it's not poisonous, right? And because mistakes can be made. So even though the puffball hardly has any poisonous species, there are some that might be upsetting. And certainly if you identify it, so like a stem and cap might come up, and before it fully opens up, it might look like a puffball, but if you cut into it, you'll see that the inside of another mushroom, and it could be like an amanita, a poisonous, deadly amanita mushroom. So you really have to be careful, know what you're doing, and you have to cook mushrooms, wild mushrooms. You can't just eat them in the woods. You don't pop them in your mouth or something like that. So pick them, have fun, positively identify them, 100%. Make sure they're edible before you eat them. Cook them and start small. So if you can eat a wild mushroom, eat a little bit of it, and try it that way first before you go gung-ho on eating it. And hopefully you had fun enjoying the puffballs like I had fun finding them, and I look forward to other adventures with Dawn. So share your thoughts, follow me on Facebook, and on my website, KelleysIslandAdventours.com. Thanks for joining. My dog Libby. I go everywhere with her. She goes mushroom hunting with me. She goes all over the woods with me. She would even love it if she could go on tours with me, but she doesn't. Right, Lem? She's my baby.